too much.
That oil painting is of him, but it was painted 600 years ago. It's amazing the things the Prince can do.
Silly.
It's crazy.
Supposed to be
The
a
prophecy.
serious show.
Yeah.
Prediction week. Last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars went from 3-14 to 9-8. Actually won a playoff game, even though 4 interceptions and a half. Is that
See,
right?
this guy.
I'm just saying. Is that
four?
right?
That's a
4
lot.
and 1/2.
That's a ton.
Not
That's a
good.
season for some.
Carried on the royal shoulders.
Glass
of
half
the
empty
Prince,
kinda
as
guys.
promised. Nick, who will be the team that surprises everyone this year?
Well, I don't know why we're using the Jags as the setup, because the Jags didn't surprise everyone. They surprised some people, but not everyone. Some people knew it was coming all along. They had seen the prophecy. This is another team that should not be considered a surprise, but I think would be. The Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers won 9 games 2 years ago with what was left of Ben Roethlisberger. That team so badly knew. Do you remember at the end of that year, Ben did a victory lap around the stadium because he was so sure it was his final game, and then they still made the playoffs anyway. He's like, oh my God, I gotta keep going.
That was better than
Remember
a bye,
that?
wasn't it?
And so it was better than a bye. And then last year, what did they start? 1-6. They have a rookie quarterback. Their best players out injured, and they find their way to 9 wins. They have a top 3 coach in the NFL. They do have, unlike a lot of these other pretenders, an actual top 5 defense in the NFL. They have the best safety in football, Minkah Fitzpatrick, arguably the best edge rusher. He's on the very short list in TJ Watt. And they're at least good to very good almost everywhere else. They always have good receivers. And yes, they are in a brutal division. That part I totally understand. But nobody seems to believe the Steelers that won 9 games last year with everything working against them can win 11 games this year and win that division. Of course they can. And so while I don't think they can go to the Super Bowl because Kenny Pickett is not going to go through that gauntlet of AFC quarterbacks, I think Mike Tomlin can have them back in the playoffs with that defense and with Pickett just taking a reasonable year 2 jump.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Steelers. I think they're going to have a very good year. My team, though, is Who Dat.
Oh.
Who Dat Nation, stand up. The New Orleans Saints.
Ooh, they're the
You're
favorites.
sleeping. You're snoozing, Nick, right? I'm telling you, the New Orleans Saints, they've got a major upgrade at
Kamara's
quarterback.
coming back after 3
Derek
games. They got Michael
Andy
Thomas
Dalton
back.
was the quarterback last year. Major upgrade with Derek Carr. Got some weapons too, Chris Olave. And word is, Michael Thomas is actually healthy.
gosh.
Like, he's really healthy now. All right, so he's 30 years old. He's been
He's
out
fresh.
so long.
I mean, he's fresh.
He's fresh. He has no wear and tear on him. That's for darn sure. So I think, look, the defense is will be the first time in Derek Carr's career. The defense might not be what it was because it's been great for several years, but it should be good. First time you have a top 10 defense in his career, and I think that'll help him
Can we
out.
stay
Bad
here
division for the most
before
part.
we get to your team? All right. First of all, as often is the case, Brew is cheating. That they are the favorites to win their division.
Yeah,
that
but
is not a
still.
surprise unless you think they're going to be like a
No,
12-win
nobody's
team.
expecting much from New Orleans. I mean, they have to put somebody in front. That's a bad division for the most part.
So here's my only question, because everybody is talking about the significant upgrade they got in Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Is there not something to be said that, hey, Andy Dalton in Cincinnati and Derek Carr in Vegas were somewhat similar, and when the Bengals were done with Andy Dalton was done, whether we recognized it or not. Similar with how when the Colts were done with, when the Falcons were done with Matt Ryan, or when the Chargers were done with Phillip Rivers, they were done. I understand Carr's younger than Phillip Rivers was, but there isn't real concern that Derek Carr might be not the player that he was a few years ago. Like, that's not a real concern.
If you want to take the most negative viewpoint possible, sure.
Exactly.
Okay? But you hit it on the head. He's younger than Andy Dalton was. And I think he was better than Andy Dalton was. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I don't know, Andy
I
Dalton.
think Dalton a little more
playoff-
pedestrian.
yeah.
He got to the playoffs, but
Sure.
a little more pedestrian
Okay.
than Derek Carr.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I
fine.
think Derek
I'd like
Carr
to
has
pick
a
up
few more
of
weapons
Derek
to work
Carr.
with,
I'd say the
too.
thing that I'd be concerned about if I was New Orleans is usually the first year with a new offensive coordinator or in a new system, he's not as effective as his second year, and that's been pretty consistent over the course of his career. I'm going to take another team out of that division. I think the Falcons are going to be a team that
My
can
guy.
surprise. So now on offense, they've got 6 #1 draft picks on offense. 3 of them
That's
are on the
crazy.
offensive line. Okay, so that's one component of it. They've got a explosive tight end, we think, Kyle Pitts. He should be better than we've seen. They've got a potentially an explosive receiver in Drake London
say that every year.
outside. They drafted Bijan Robinson, but they already had a really impressive running game. Tyler Algier, who's there, he rushed over 200 times for a 4.9
Cordero
yard
Patterson
average.
wasn't even that
so
bad
it
last
doesn't
year.
matter who they put in the game.
It wasn't
as running
great
back,
by any means,
that
but-
guy can be effective. They've had a massive overhaul of the team in general, so they've gotten younger. They've infused that component of it. So all the losing that they've been used to, those guys haven't been a part of that. So with a young team that's as talented as they are offensively, and add Jonnu Smith, he did a really nice job in Tennessee when he was with the head coach previously. They've got a lot of things that you like. I don't know where they're going to show up on defense. I'm not sure where that's going to go, but they should be able to score a lot of points and be in almost every game.
Yeah, that's good. If you get a chance at home and you're on DVR or you're watching on YouTube or digital, or the podcast even, go back and listen to Nick's take on the Steelers and then say, wow, sounds like you could say the same thing about the mighty, mighty New England Patriots. Great coach, franchise that always wins, starts slow, but they kind of work their way up, even if it was a bad year, and they're going to make a leap. That's going to
Yeah,
happen.
nobody said the Patriots.
No one said the Patriots
that hurts.
because they are literally the most likely to surprise anyone. If you're mentioned in this segment, you're not actually likely to surprise anyone. It's a little bit of an MC Escher painting. You're kind of stuck. Coming up
I see what
next.
he's saying.
Okay,
Except they're in a way
guys.
harder division.
I might not do
I
this
didn't say
segment.
a segment that
Coach,
Nick
you
didn't
want to
want
do
to
it
do.
for me? I didn't want to do it. It's dumb. They know it's dumb. They just want me to get upset.
Today's show, well, you missed predictions week. You got to check it out.
Check
The
it out,
whole
man.
Week, you can get all of our predictions, and tomorrow we're doing the Super Bowl. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
I
or
wonder
wherever
what they're
you
going to
get your
do here for
podcasts.
this last segment.
Now we're about to do a segment, that Nick didn't want to do. We got into a miniature argument upstairs,
It wasn't miniature.
and I said, I'll be fair, and I will be. The Vikings have made TJ Hawkinson the league's highest paid tight end. It's a 4-year extension, averaging over $17 million a year. Travis Kelce, who is the best tight end in the world, is scheduled to make around $14 million. I can ask you several questions. I
Yeah.
can ask you, how should he feel about this? I could ask you, is this something or nothing? I could ask you, are the Chiefs doing a bad job with Travis Kelce? Is he a threat to leave?
Threat to leave. What do you want to ask? I didn't want to do this segment because
I don't
it's
want to
dumb.
step on your.
I got a question too.
Well, go, ask away.
Can you put T.J. Hawkinson on the board?
Why?
Because
Dusty pitched
he's
this to me,
getting
and
much
now he
higher
must
paid.
have convinced you. The
Oh,
fact
did he? I didn't even know that. That was
the-
Dusty and I
no,
like this.
good for T.J. Hawkinson for getting money. Listen, I don't think he's the best tight end in football.
No,
he
he's
does. So is George Kittle angry? George Kittle's the second best tight end in football, right? Where with the tight end for the Andrews for the Ravens? I didn't even see him on there. He's the third best tight end. Have any of those people gone in one of America's most trusted luxury publications, such as Vanity Fair, and openly discussed how happy they are
He's thrilled.
despite the fact they're not making money? The answer to that question is no. You know why? Vanity Fair would not deign to talk to any other tight end in football. They know who Travis Kelce is because he is the best tight end ever on a dynastic team. And he's very happy about that. And you two rabble-rousers
I
trying to
rabble-rousing?
sow
Look,
division.
we're just reading the.
What do you? What's
We're
the
just
What's the tea leaf? Tell me.
None of those guys also went.
They've
in
mentioned,
Vanity Fair,
or
that
Travis Kelce
luxury
has mentioned that he's
magazine, whatever you
underpaid
call
before.
it.
I think he accepts it.
And talked about their contract, how they're underpaid. He did say that.
He
He
was
could have just
asked-
talked about how happy I am.
He was
but
asked
he
about
brought
the
up that he's
contract,
underpaid.
and he said the fact. Of course, I'm underpaid, and I'm fine with it.
So, is there the only other sort of tangential story here, and I don't want to get in your craw,
No, you do. That's why we're doing this.
but you also don't have your best defensive player
So-
currently
Yeah, so
in
the-
camp
so
because
I-
he wants
so
to
We got a
I
lot of
will-
guys talking
he's not
about
taking
I
money.
will. Hold on, no. There's not a lot of guys talking about money. There's one guy.
Second
on the,
and third best
there's
players, right?
Travis Kelce is not talking about money. Travis Kelce was asked directly, and he said, "I'm good with it."
He's good with it.
Patrick Mahomes has been asked directly, is he talking
with
about
it.
money? He said he's good with it. I when we had our mini argument upstairs, said if you want to talk Chris Jones, we should have a Chris Jones discussion, because the GM of the Chiefs yesterday somewhat oddly said he still thinks he could play week 1. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think Chris Jones is going to make it for week 1, but maybe he can. But and maybe I'm crazy, don't think the Vikings tight end getting a contract extension has any impact on Chris Jones' status with the Chiefs. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a beautiful mind
making all that
scenario.
money. Like, wow.
Yeah, things Tyreek is.
Justin Jefferson's going to get a
dough.
new deal. Like, man, I'm the best pass. I just like Travis Kelce. I want to see him paid handsomely.
I think
That's
it's
it.
Who doesn't?
I want the Chiefs to get their money.
But there's something to be said about giving to your team so that they can go out and get more
Capitalize on this
weapons
next,
for you to
prediction
win.
week.